We have jumped into 2024, although actually, I don't know, some of us may feel like we have crawled into 2024. 2023 kind of ended with whew, but we are here. It is January and we are here. And I think it's interesting and fitting that the first month of the year in our Roman calendar is named for the Roman deity Janus, the one who had two faces, the one who ruled over doorways and gates and thresholds and new beginnings. So with one face, Janus would look backwards to the past, and with another, he looked to the future. And this double gaze was representing wisdom. What he learned from the past, he could use to make good decisions for the times that were coming ahead. So we see that January has always been thought of as a transition time. When you look back at the last year and think about what has already happened and begin to make plans for the next year ahead. It invites us to look for some of those threshold moments, those times when you leave behind one phase or aspect of life and you transition into something new, something different. Now, in the calendar year of the church, we are in one of those transitional phases. We are leaving behind the season of Christmas. For yesterday, January 6th, began the season of Epiphany. This is the season of Epiphany where we are looking for the presence of God in the world, and especially in the life of Jesus. Our focus here for this new season this year is going to be looking at physical spirituality, or maybe spiritual physicality. We want our spirituality to be deeply rooted in our physical experience, finding the sacred in our everyday physical lives, lives that one day can be wonderful and inspiring, and the next day be painful and disorienting, and yet this is where we experience the sacred presence of God. It is right here with us and in us. So today we're going to begin this season with the inbreaking of the Spirit into our world in Jesus' baptism. For here, God's chosen one is stepping into the river, entering into the murky flowing waters of the Jordan River, marking the beginning of a new stage in Jesus' life, a new stage in the life of the world. So this physical element and spiritual symbol for this new beginning is water. We know that water is essential for our physical life and our well-being, and therefore it is a symbol of spiritual life and health as well. We now know that water covers 71% of the Earth's surface and is vital for all of life on the planet. And our bodies are made up nearly 70% water, something we obviously cannot survive without. And we tend to think of our bodies being solid, our bones are hard, and our muscles are thick. And then we realize that in reality, we are mostly fluid. And then there are these many stories of biblical figures, prophets and saints and healers that involve water. Shrines, temples, cathedrals were always built over springs for ancient healing wells. And as Diana Butler Bass reminds us in her wonderful book, Grounded, the quest for sacred water is not limited to Christianity, for from the Ganges River to the Lourdes Springs to the Jordan River to Japan's sacred waterfalls, all around the globe, faithful pilgrims make their way to places where they believe holy water can cleanse and cure. Now, as we read today in our Hebrew story, I know the children's book said that God created out of nothing, but when we look at our scriptures at Genesis, what was the thing that was there that the Spirit hovered over? It was water, the only thing that existed with God before the rest of the world came into being. This ancient biblical tradition suggests that waters and wells and springs are also places of renewal. They are in the stories places of hospitality, places where spiritual visions happen, places where human beings see God and receive God's blessing. So humans have understood through time that water is vital for our happiness, for our well-being. And it's always interesting to see again that in recent times, researchers around the globe have demonstrated that being in natural environments with water makes us more relaxed, makes us happier, more satisfied with life. I don't know if anybody else really requires at least one beach fix each year, but I do. Something about being in the presence and the sound and the feel and the smell of the water. Just being near water has proved to have curative effects on health problems like PTSD, depression, addictions, chronic pain, anxiety, stress, attention disorders. It can hasten healing from surgery, from illnesses and injuries. I love the Isaac Dennison quote. I've had it on my fridge for some time. The cure for anything is found in salt water, tears or sweat or the sea. Water is physically healing to our spirits as well. And again in Scripture, God's presence breaks forth at springs and in forms of water. So we begin this season of looking for God, where God can be found in our world, with this threshold moment of baptism. For it's into that mythic Jordan River that Jesus wades. And baptism, well, it's a vulnerable thing, especially when it's done in a river. First, you step through the muddy riverbank trying to keep your balance as the ground shifts and the water rushes around your legs. And then you let another person place you under this rushing water and you trust them to bring you up before you drown. It takes courage. It takes facing one's fragility, one's fear of death in this precarious moment. And Jesus takes these steps, allowing this wild-haired, locust-eating prophet to plunge him under this flowing river water. And here he is making a commitment to follow God's Spirit wherever it is leading. And with this symbolic action, he also allows us to see that he has embraced our human nature, our weakness, our vulnerability. He wants us to know that he experiences life as we do. And for Jesus, this choice to step into the baptismal waters is a threshold moment. It's the end of one chapter of life. It's a commitment to being open to something new, saying goodbye to childhood and adolescence, and stepping into a life of ministry, of caring, of being with people and following God's lead. Diana Butler-Bass again describes this transformative moment of stepping out of our comfort zone and into the water. A place where water touches land is called the riparian zone, and it's one of the most significant ecosystems in the planet. This riparian zone works as a natural filter. It cleans the water. It moves the water into larger watersheds. It protects the surrounding soil. It's an important element for life on Earth. And this riparian zone seems like an apt metaphor for life. It is that muddy edge of the river. And this is like what some faith traditions refer to as a liminal space. It's that uncertain territory we feel we are in between maybe the certain territory of the past that we knew and the one we will come to know in this next stage of life. And often there are times in each person's life, like what happens at the water's edge. That feeling of the ground under my feet soften and steps are tentative, and we become unsure of where we are to step, to move ahead. It might go too low. We might lose our balance. This is the geography of trust and transformation, where the safe shore dissolves and we feel disoriented as we consider what we should do next. Stepping into the river means stepping into an uncertain space. Today, as we begin to look for God in our world, we are remembering the day when Jesus stepped into the river, off of that comfortable solid ground into the rushing waters. Choosing this symbolic act of baptism was trusting God for whatever would come next, knowing that this next chapter might not be easy or painless, and yet, given all that, it would be filled with joy and meaning, purpose, and new relationships. So as we consider this new year, as you consider this new year, it may feel like just another January, just the beginning of another year, just like every other year. Or on the other hand, it might be the beginning of some new chapter in your life, some new challenges that you will be facing, maybe even some new relationships with people you haven't even met yet. There may be changes ahead for you this year. Maybe this is a year when your wisdom is needed to walk someone else through the difficult challenges that they are facing on their journey. So as we begin, I am not actually suggesting that you get rebaptized if you've already had that experience, but I hope this year will bring you into contact with the healing power of water. Whether it's walking along a river, whether it's jumping into the waves at the beach, or hiking by a mountain stream, hopefully you will find yourself somewhere where your body and your mind and your spirit can be healed and soothed and strengthened by water. That the changes that you are approaching can be a time of transformation for you, and knowing that you are in the presence of God. So baptism in water is one symbolic gesture by which we proclaim our commitment to the way of Jesus and the God of love. And another symbol of that commitment is in the sharing of the Lord's Supper. And so here we choose each month, once a month, to share this communion, to remember the last meal that Jesus shared with his beloved followers and his friends as he prepared to show the world the depths of God's unconditional love. By giving his life so that all the world could see that compassion is more powerful than violence, and to see that love is stronger than death. This is what we remember as together, as community, we share the Lord's Supper.